Okay, perfect. All right, welcome everybody. Today is the our December kind of surprise meeting of the CARC Emerging Centers track, where we've invited Kevin, and I'm not sure if Deep is on here too, the program directors for the campus cyber infrastructure. Oh, hi Deep. Sorry, I'm not scrolling. The campus cyber infrastructure program directors for the NSF CC Star 21528 solicitations. So they're going to go over, I think, just walk through probably the solicitation itself, and then ask any questions and answers, or provide answers. If you want to put your questions in the chat, Rich and I can kind of keep an eye on Rich Nepper and ask them as they come along, so you guys won't have to do that. So we'll just kind of ask questions as they come along, and then we can have a little bit of a Q&A afterwards. And then right after them is going to be Jen Schuff, and I'm not sure if Jason is going to be on the call too. Is Jason here?
I'm here.
Oh, hi Jason. So they are the, are you guys co-directors of EPOC? You can describe, yeah. They work with EPOC. She can give us a little bit of or they can give us a little bit of an intro to that, because I'm not sure that they've come and spoken to us, these emerging centers track yet. And they work with a lot of people that have submitted this grant. They partner with people, they're collaborators, they can help out, and so they're going to answer or give us some of their frequently asked questions they had, and then they'll answer questions also. So okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen unless anybody has any questions right here in the beginning. No, good. All right, we'll go ahead and get started, and this will be recorded.
Okay, can you see my slides?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's always good when that works.
The thumbs up from Jennifer. Okay, great. Well, Jane, thanks for the invitation for Deep and I to give a little bit of an overview of the Campus CI program. You have the benefit of my cutting down the number of slides from a talk I gave to ERN last week that went way overboard on numbers of slides, so I've kept this short, thankfully. And I see a lot of familiar names on this Zoom, so feel free to interrupt, or to if you want to focus on a specific area, you want to wait for Q&A to do that, that's fine too. But let's start with the mission of the National Science Foundation, and that's our headquarters here in the picture, to promote the progress of science, to advance the national health, prosperity, and welfare, to secure the national defense. Briefly, I do want to mention a couple of other solicitations. As NSFers, we're kind of programmed to mention open solicitations, and so we've got a couple of other ones in my division, the Office of Advanced Cyber Infrastructure. This is a big one. This is really our home in OAC for learning workforce and development activities, certainly moving forward, cyber training. And so if you do a search on NSF 19-524, you'll come upon this solicitation that has several project classes and award sizes. It is NSF wide. It is led by my colleague in OAC, Alan Sussman. That deadline is coming up. So, what is that? That's a little over a month away. But great opportunity there. I think Alan also did a webinar, and the recording might be available online. I think he did that webinar early last week. This is another open solicitation that closes even earlier on January 8th, 2021. And this was a cybersecurity program that Anita Nikolic, when she was a rotator at NSF, created. And we now have Rob Beverly from NPS, Naval Postgraduate School, and a networking and cybersecurity researcher leading this program. And I think he's done a great job kind of rethinking the program. That number is NSF 21-512. And this is definitely separate from what cybersecurity researchers in the community know as maybe their home program with Secure and Trustworthy Cyberspace, SATSI. That is their flagship cybersecurity research program. It's actually, I think, the largest program in NSF. It's got something like 1,000 active awards. This is different, and this is all about applied R&D to make scientific CI-centric environments more safe, secure, and trustworthy. So check that out if you've got interest in that space. And then Margaret Martinosi, our head of CISE, our Computer Sciences Directorate, OAC is one division of that, and Deep's CNS division is another division, and so we're 2 or 4. Margaret showed this slide in a talk she gave at the NSFNet celebration last week, and so I wanted to pull this out because it shows a couple of things. It shows where I don't read anything into the color red for the CC star oval, and I'm fine with its size, and I think it's positioned more or less correctly. But it gives you an idea of how CISE as a directorate views the infrastructure programs. And so I'll sometimes look at this myself and as a bit of a reminder for the size and scope of some of these programs. I'm not going to go through these. Jane, you're certainly familiar with MRI in a very successful way. Congratulations on that award in 2020. But the mid-scale 1s and 2s. So, for those who aren't familiar with those terms, you can think of those programs as kind of filling this gap that NSF has been aware of for a while between, to put it bluntly, MRI and MREFC scale, right? And so you've got a couple of solicitations out there. Margaret is focusing there on MRI 1, 21-505, which covers the 6 to 20 million area. I think MRI 2 is out, right, Deep? And that covers above 20 million.
Yes, that one is out. Yeah, I think that number 21,537 is MRI 2, the one at the bottom, the link there.
Okay. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, Deep is involved with those programs. So, okay. Oh, there it is. I forgot there was a fill in there. So you see there's a pre-proposal deadline. The one for MRI 1 is around the corner there. And so there are some larger and what is certain to be very competitive opportunities at those award size ranges. Okay, so just a little predicate. Sometimes I have to remind myself why we have this program. There are different dimensions to networking. I think, as we know, there's global, there's national, there's state and regional, there's campus. All are needed for end-to-end high-performance connectivity for driving science in the 21st century. And CC Star is certainly about campus, but I think it's reaching, especially with Area 2, a bit into state and regional. This program did come out of a task force, an advisory committee on cyber infrastructure. Way back, they met, I guess they met 10 years ago, and they came out with this report. I should check if that URL still works. We're not good at keeping URLs up to date at NSF, but you could probably still find this online. I think IU used to have it. It's actually still, I think, a fresh read. It's been a little while since I read it, but there are a lot of recommendations in there. And I think this one spoke most clearly to the creation of something like CC Star. And we view CC Star as representing our thoughts that NSF is a fundamental layer and underpinning of cyber infrastructure, driven by scientific research and education needs. A little more than half of the awards have come out of what remains Area 1 as infrastructure upgrades on the campus network, external to the network, to the national R&E fabric, eventually to Internet 2, usually through state and regional. They usually include a campus border redesign. You see the classic diagram from ESNet on this Science DMZ approach that is meant to prioritize science flows across the campus border. There are a couple of other components in there to strengthen that thematic, but to make as frictionless as possible scientific data flows. This program's been around since 2012. It's unusual for programs to give an aggregate award count. As I just alluded to SATSI has 3 times as many active awards today than I think we've made in the history of the program. But I like doing an aggregate count because to me it reflects maybe a little more of a permanence or a longer term impact of some of the awards. And a pretty good spread. That is an up-to-date map. You can't make sense of any of the detail of those dots, but the black ones are from last year, or from 2020, I should say. So I need to update this bullet. It does in fact show the 2019 awards. It also shows the 2020 awards. CC Star continues to emphasize strong campus level partnerships between the researchers, the educators, and campus IT leadership. And like the other solicitations that are open that I mentioned, simple search on the number, you'll find it. I'll try to mention a few of the changes in the solicitation. In fact, here are a couple. The 13 to 15 million in expected award funding is a little bit of a decrease from last year. This one, for the first time, has 2 award dates. So you can view this kind of as a 2-cycle solicitation. We're not going to spend months after this March 1 deadline redoing or making changes to the solicitation, and we're leaving it in place for a fall deadline of October 11. So both those dates are in the solicitation. The areas 1 through 4 have some minor changes, as does area 5, which had been area 6 last year. So the big change here is, as we signaled in the last solicitation, cyber team is no longer an area in CC Star, and I think those activities, those types of activities, the community can expect to see OAC continue to support homed in our LWD program, cyber training, and in that part of the division. Across these areas, one change in the solicitation to try to make it a little more readable, we try to summarize the requirements at the end of each area in bullets. And those were the requirements. Those weren't the recommendations or suggestions, but those are the requirements in each of them. I think we raised the maximum level of an award in area 2 to $1 million, if memory serves. That had been smaller the year before. And then we slightly reduced in area 5, the larger size award, I think down to $200,000. And then we made a couple of other, a few edits as well. The program-wide criteria for CC Star, these have really been unchanged since the beginning of the program. The extent to which the work provides needed capabilities driven by science needs and education and engineering. front and center is demonstrating a strong partnership among the researchers and educators and campus IT leadership. And then there's been, I think to this day, it's still unique to this program, this idea of a campus cyber infrastructure plan. Some of that wording has changed a bit over the years, but the thematic there is still the same. And we continue to believe that this is a worthwhile process for a campus to go through, and a driver of some strategic thinking that helps them put what they're proposing into maybe a larger strategic context for the campus.
Kevin, can I interject something just real quick? So this this group that we're talking to, and one of the reasons I thought this was really important to have you guys, the emerging centers. So it's a lot of maybe research level 2 or you know, smaller organizations that are just getting started in their developing their systems and their services. So this is, I kind of cage this as the CC Star is like, it's kind of an entry level into doing this, and the cyber infrastructure plan in particular, and starting to work with your researchers. You know, it's a great place to start. I know it's where I started at the University of Cincinnati, because it starts those conversations, because you have to do the cyber infrastructure plan. You have to talk to your IT people. You have to, you know, it's a bigger picture. So that's why I just wanted to just remind everybody and you and Deep that this audience, you know, I think this is a perfect tool for them to start with.
Great, and you know, I mean, we have a couple of ES netters on this call, Jason included, I think, and the solicitation does point to a URL that ESNet hosts that gives you some example campus CI plans. I think Jason's been very good at asking for new and updated ones with some frequency over the years. So you have maybe some examples if you're struggling to put that together. If it makes you feel any better, I can tell you, looking at these over 8-9 years, this is a challenge even for the largest institutions, or it has been, I think. So you're in good company. But yeah, I think it's, and so that is a required element. We have, unfortunately, every year returned, I think, at least one, sometimes more than one proposal that has forgotten to put this in as a supplementary document. Okay, so I have just a few slides here. I think maybe one slide on each area. I refer you to the solicitation text where you will see the bulleted list at the end of each area now, summarizing the requirements. So these, you know, it's a bit long prose in some of these areas. And so this is just more of summary slides, to be honest with you. We can go down and come back to any of these areas as you wish. But area 1 has largely been unchanged since the beginning of the program. And you know, often what we'll see in an area 1 proposal is some combination of a campus network upgrade, a science DMZ to re-architect the campus border, and ESNet has a ton of info on that, has had for years now on their website, and the URL is provided in the solicitation. And that combination often includes an upgrade, maybe through the regional to Internet 2, and so I think the maximum award size is 500,000 in this. If you've been awarded in Area 1 in the past, you are not allowed to come back in on an Area 1. It's not meant as a refresh so much as to give an institution an opportunity to step up to a new level, right? And so that one thing remains in there. We did add in suggesting that you talk to the folks at the Engagement and Performance Operations Center, EPOC, and I think you're hearing from Jennifer and Jason after you're done with me. So they will probably talk about the importance to choose wisely on the network equipment choices that go into these proposals and how they can help you walk that path, among other things. Area 2 grew out of what we had seen in the first few years of the program, where it was clear that under-resourced institutions were challenged to compete with some of the larger ones for the limited funding in what had really been just Area 1, and what we're about to talk about now is Area 3. And so this now reads really as a regional connectivity opportunity, where we're looking for proposals addressing R&E networking needs for groups of smaller and under-resourced institutions with real fundamental challenges in networking infrastructure and resources. And there is some additional wording there in Area 2 that leaves the door open to some different approaches to things like the classical science DMZ at each border. This area does call out the ability for the kinds of entities that are, say, Quilt members to lead proposals in this area. And I think those are up to $1 million per for maximum for an award now. Well, Deep, you can step in at any time. My partner in crime on this program not only helps me with all the other areas, but he leads this one. His division, Computer Networking Systems, has, for the history of this program, been the anchor funding entity for awards out of what is now Area 3 on network integration and applied innovation. And here we're looking for something new in networking, right? That can be maybe through a process of combining existing capabilities and block functions to achieve a new capability. It can be new applied research and development and deployment for the first time in a campus setting. There are a number of examples in this area of what proposals can approach. And starting last year, when the Fabric Award was made out of the MRI2 program, we introduced the opportunity to look at leveraging Fabric as a national scale platform for experimental deployment, maybe protocol prototyping and testing and evaluation. So we continue to encourage the use and leverage of Fabric. I've got all the awards in slides at the end. I wasn't planning on going through them, and I probably won't go through them, but if you bother to take the time to look at them, I think Jane's welcome to make these available to you. I will state that, CNS and Deep, they made a larger number of awards than usual. I think part of that had to do with Deep's decision to expand the opportunities in this area by making kind of two sizes of awards, right? That hadn't previously been seen until last year. So you've got a small sub area up to 500,000. You've got a large area up to $1 million, which had been the only opportunity. And so we're, as we always are with all of our awards every year, we're very excited about the awards that Deep and his division were able to make in this area last year.
So Kevin, if I may quickly add to that one point to this thing, is that one thing we changed here in Area 3 is that we are requiring that graduate students should be involved and supported in conducting this proposed activity, because it's a sort of an applied resource oriented, and that was, we never had that explicitly stated, so it caused confusion with the panel and the PIs. So we added that to the solicitation this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Deep. This is the third solicitation making available award opportunity for a campus cluster. And so this has seen, I think, a tremendous response in the community in its first 2 years. It keeps with the thematics on the networking side of the solicitation, where things have to be science-driven. A key challenge, just as there's a challenge, I think, in areas 1 and 2 to describe and quantify the science drivers to match the networking upgrades that you're proposing. The challenge here in this area is to match that and the scientific computing codes that presumably will be running on your proposed system to your proposed configuration for that system. There are a couple of other maybe unique items in this area. One is you're expected to show where this sits from a network connectivity standpoint. Does it sit on, under somebody's desk off copper wire feed or something, or is this off of your science DMZ? Where is it connected? By the way, there is zero requirement to have gotten an award previously at CC Star. It has nothing to do with that. That said, the implication in this area is that we would expect you to have such a resource very well connected, right, within campus. And because of this other requirement in sharing 20% of your resource externally from the campus, we would expect to see strong connectivity outside the campus to connect to this resource. So we point to Open Science Grid as a great example of what you could connect to as a shared national fabric and a mechanism by which you can not only make available the 20% amount of cycles from your shared resource, but it works both ways. Also tap into and make available to your users external resources. So this is a nice look at OSG, which has actually been around for quite a long time with dozens of sites participating. Not all awardees in the first 2 years have chosen OSG as their shared national distributed compute fabric. I think there are at least 2, maybe 3 with NRP, PRP. But that's you'll see a URL there for a pointer to OSG, and I think there's at least one person I might have caught on here from the PATH project. That's the new award that got turned on, a 5-year award, so you can be assured that that this platform will continue to receive NSF support for at least the next 5 years. It's going to be there for you. And feel free to reach out to the folks at OSG if you're interested in considering them as your choice and your partner on an Area 4 proposal. Area 5, a bit of an outgrowth that we finally got around to. In a sense, we understand that this is a difficult solicitation for smaller under-resourced institutions, especially if they're going at this for the first time. They're not part of an Area 2, which by definition is coordinated group going in. And so, but this is open to anyone who feels the need to maybe ask for a little bit of money to support the resources and time needed to plan for a CC Star proposal. That's certainly the idea of the planning grant area of up to $100,000. The CIRA element is meant to, you can justify going up to $200,000. We would expect to see this maybe for a multi-campus. I don't think the words require it to be multi-campus, but it depends on how much of a CI-wide type of planning activity maybe that you are looking at and the complexity of that. Certainly with in a post-COVID era, the travel resources needed, the staff time for a coordinated effort across institutions might justify the CIRA level. And there's some wording in there for the planning grant area. I'll end with this. I like showing this map. It maybe just in a sense that I feel like it should be shown more. I love this map. It's a reminder that we have this wonderfully rich and connected fabric at the state and regional level that augments, underpins, works with the Internet 2 backbone that is, I think, most of the way through an amazing upgrade themselves. So again, it's just kind of a reminder of maybe how institutions are connecting to the national and global fabrics. I'll stop there. And Deep, did I miss something? Did I get something wrong? Please fill in.
Everything looks good. Kevin, you covered everything that I can think of. So we're open to questions.
And you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your questions if anybody has them. I'll start. There were a couple of questions in the chat. I think they kind of got answered through the chat, but just in case anybody's not looking in there. Jacob Fasotande, which I hope I didn't script your name, Jacob, from UNC Greensboro, asked if there's any order to the solicitation. Could you have, for example, a CC Star Area 1 first before the campus CI plan, which somebody did answer that or Jen answered that the campus CI plan is required for areas 1 through 4, but I guess, is there any order to the numbers? And I don't think there is, but I'll let you guys answer.
I mean, there's no endemic value in terms of priority of area. Area 1 was Area 1 back in 2012, and so it's just an enumeration. Yeah, I wouldn't read anything into the ordering, and thank you, Jennifer, for correctly answering that, and she's correct. In fact, Area 5, a planning grant, it's somewhat implied that you need the planning grant to help, maybe in part, help form a better campus CI plan. So it's certainly not required for Area 5, but for 1 through 4, if we don't see it, it will get returned.
Can you stop? Do you mind, Kevin, stop sharing your, I don't know if I can do that. Maybe I can. So that way we can see everybody if anybody wants to pop in. And I know also Lauren Michael from the Open Science Grid linked in the chat to more information and how you can contact them, just to point out to everybody that information is in there. And I'm thinking we might invite somebody from there to come to our January meeting and just do a brief description and overview in case anybody's interested in working with them on this solicitation. Does anybody else have any questions?
I have a question. In other presentations, I've heard that sending a 1 or 2 page outline or letter of intent or whatever to sort of sketch out the idea. Could you talk a little bit more about what you're looking for in those things and what's the best way to get you one of those?
Okay, sure. I don't think our solicitation requires that or even mentions it. You're certainly welcome to do that, and many have over the years. I think the cyber training solicitation might even have it in theirs, but it's a good idea. I'm available to talk to you at your convenience between now and, I'm subject to my calendar, between now and deadline. It does make for, I think, a valuable piece of that conversation. If you do share a 1-pager on your proposal idea, that gives us something tangible to talk around and talk to. If it's an Area 3 proposal, I will probably send you directly to Deep, who's also more than happy to discuss any Area 3 proposal ideas. And not required, but yeah, great idea to bring a one pager with you and to share that before maybe we Zoom. And we're happy to give you feedback. We can't give you advice. We can certainly give you feedback if your idea is responsive. And yeah.
And generally, what are you looking for in those one pagers, or what's really helpful for you? What are some of the common feedbacks that you might have, since a lot of us, I think, are new to the proposal writing process? It'd be helpful to know a little bit of, what should we be putting together and what questions should we be asking, kinds of things.
Yeah, so I think it's a great question. And I think this is one of those questions that your peers maybe can better answer than I can in some sense, because they've gone through the process. But I think, often in general, external to this program, someone from the community comes to me with a proposal idea, could be in a different program. That's almost always the first thing I ask for is, well, can you share a one pager? I think that's maybe a good phase one exercise. If you can't put down on paper in one page what you want, a bit of an outline of what you want to propose, then maybe there's a bigger issue, right? I think when you ask for maybe a meeting to discuss a proposal idea you have, I would ask you to definitely read through word for word everything we put into that one area, and maybe one exercise is to jot down what questions you have looking at this. What if there's something that doesn't make sense to you, we're happy to try to clarify. The solicitation tries hard to make available community resources. Jennifer and Jason represent one of those resources. Warren represents one of those resources. And so I would urge you to look at this also as looking for opportunities to get some help. Again, the campus CI plan, we don't give you a structure for that in the solicitation. We never have. We never have. We probably never will. But you do have some examples, thanks to ESNet, of those that have come before to give you an idea of how they approached it. So I think you have some community help there. But I'll just say again, I'm not requiring you to come with a one pager. If you're more comfortable with jotting down, some ideas for a proposal and some questions to ask, I'm happy to have that conversation with you.
Sometimes some people prefer to send it as a couple of slides. That's fine too. It's okay.
Mike Renfro, did you have some questions you wanted to ask? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, I am. I'm also third in line in the chat questions, and I didn't want to jump ahead of anybody.
Well, yeah, I will say, so for there's a question about the science DMZ and advantages and disadvantages, which Jen is going to talk about that a little bit in her presentation. So I think we'll answer that there. There is sorry, I missed that one. For an Area 5 CIRA planning grant, are there connection with the trusted CI group to provide outside guidance if awarded?
We've got some pointers for that in our talk, but Kevin can address that too.
Yeah, this is a classic case where I have to go back and see what we wrote. I don't recall putting trusted CI in that area. Is the question, can you write into a proposal engagement with trusted CI?
Don, if you do you want to clarify, or I can, it's connection with the trusted CI group to provide outside guidance if awarded. So maybe a collaboration, like a letter of collaboration type thing.
I would say talk to Vaughn and talk to the trusted CI team. There's nothing in Area 5 that precludes you from wanting to spend some of your time and resources engaging with trusted CI. As with anything you write into a proposal, it might be wise to give some background as to, why you want to do that. But I talk to the trusted CI team.
Okay. And then Mike, I think you had some questions about.
Yeah, I'll try and make this as quick as I can. So trying to maximize our chance of, doing some HPC upgrades this next year. So we've got an MRI planned that could go track 1 or track 2, and we got a CC star planned for March. So since they're both in the area of upgrading our campus HPC, the thing that I was told was structure each of them to be independent if we got one but not the other. And if we did happen to get both, do we just basically adjust the budget to remove the redundant bits of like networking and storage and expand compute capacity, or what, at least from the CC star side of things, what should we be looking out for to make sure we don't shoot ourselves in the foot?
I will tell you what NSF doesn't want is an identical proposal into 2 solicitations. Well, the only difference is you've got another 0 on the request line and X more of the same GPUs, CPUs, and storage. So that, I'm not a big fan of going that route. So we might want to take that one offline to maybe give you some guidance. But when we see the same word for word science drivers, the same text page for page, you open yourself up to getting both returned without review for being duplicated. So I'd be very careful walking that path.
That is exactly why I asked. Thank you. But yeah, I can bug you guys offline. Thanks.
Patrick Gossman here. If I might interject on that, we made a few rounds on MRI trying to get a large compute GPU environment for a fairly new area in physics. And we got shot down on the MRI in year 1 because we weren't narrow enough. We talked about how it could be used for other things. And it was like, well, everybody just wants more compute power. So we narrowed it down, and then we got shot down because it was narrow and it should have been broad. So I don't know, Kevin, if you've got any advice for folks going after MRI, but we just said, we're not even going to try this year, because in talking with the program folks there, it was like, we can't win on this one. So I put that out for you, Mike, because I don't know, what you're focused on, but maybe you can get some better advice before you submit something than we got.
I cannot speak directly to MRI as I'm not part of the program. That said, that is a highly competitive program. I was on a different program call yesterday where a colleague and I responded to a legitimate question from a PI who had been declined a couple straight times, right? And it's the blunt reality is, without knowing anything about your proposals, Patrick, more often than not, the nominal NSF program does not have enough funding to fund all the quality proposals. And these are difficult decisions, and we understand the frustration for many in the community, and the best we can do is to have a discussion with you if we're a part of that program, and to talk to you about if it was a well-reviewed proposal, to encourage a resubmission with consideration of the panel comments, right? So these are generic elements
Yeah.
that NSF operates. There are differences between MRI and CC Star Area 4, not the least of which is the amount of money. And we're a much smaller opportunity than what MRI offers. That's clear. And we also have a couple of different requirements, right? So.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, I wasn't looking for you to respond, on our success with MRI. This was more to give something to Mike to think about as they approach it. But you just hit the nail on the head as far as the feedback that we got from, I believe it was Ann, that there just isn't that much money there. And for a number of the folks, like the physics area, we don't pay for computing. So they want to pay for other instruments. So you have to look and see what the various areas are really looking for.
So two things, and I'm not going to speak to MRI. I just but for just one important element to consider here. I think CC Star Area 4, I can speak to that. If you put a proposal in and describe only one science domain that's going to benefit from this, you're almost certainly going to lose out in panel to all the proposals that are describing a campus-wide array of scientific use cases. So I'm not telling you anything that's not in the solicitation. It's in there. So it's just worded a little differently than crass delivery to you, Patrick. But
yeah. Well, we were successful with the CC Star cluster. Thank you very much. And yes, we followed your directions, which are very clear. And the advice I give to people who are starting out, pay real close attention to what is asked for. And then maybe as you're writing the proposal, say, oh, you asked for this. Here's our answer. You asked for this. Here's our answer, so that it's clear to the panel reviewing that, A, you're covering the bases. But yes, Kevin, thank you. We've already done that. And as you pointed out, we can't put another one in. That's why we went the next step for a few more zeros on an MRI. So, but thanks.
Well, good luck.
I
don't want to MRI.
Oh, I have another question here.
Okay, can I comment on Patrick's question?
Oh, sure. Yeah, go ahead, Deep.
Before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
I think the bigger question, Patrick, is that exactly what you need the cluster for. What's the thing you are trying to do? The reason I am asking is that we at NSF already support free compute power platforms already. Can that solve the problem you are trying to solve? So I'll point to a couple of different things. One is obviously we have the Supercomputer Center, high performance computing, right? Frontera, Expand. Those are, you can sign up, you don't have to pay anything, it's all free. Of course, there's some selection process and stuff. On top of that, within the CNS division, we support 2 NSF Future Cloud program platforms. I'll put the links in the chat box in a minute. One is called Cloud Lab. The other one is called Chameleon. We have you just need to write 2 paragraphs of what you are going to do for the project and say what kind of cores. Do you need the GPUs? You can now even request FPGAs. These are NSF's funded. Platform, as I said, we just funded them, each one for $10 million for phase 3 for next 4 years. So they're very heavily used, but that's a free resource. You want to keep it in mind if, unless you really need a cluster for those the platforms cannot do it. So
yeah, Jane, I know you want to keep things moving, but let me just add on. This is one reason why we're trying to move the community towards a shared fabric of distributed compute resources. Is there are Open Science Grid, PRP, NRP represent access to additional compute resources. It may not work for protected data if you have to keep things in-house. I understand that, but for a number of scientific uses, there are tremendous resources to tap into out there. So just keep that in mind. There'll probably never be enough compute resources on your campus, right? It's kind of a losing. I'm happy I don't have your job, Patrick, but you know,
Yeah.
keep these alternatives in mind. It's why we're enforcing this shared fabric kind of thematic in Area 4. We believe that this is
Mhm.
going to help institutions in mass for the years ahead and,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
tapping into limited resources.
Yeah. And just to kind of close this so you can get on with this, Jane, there were not enough resources in Exceed, even over a 10-year time frame, to do what we were trying to do, which is why we were looking to have a cluster that we could burn 724 completely. So yeah, we looked at that. We are making heavy use of Exceed. Also open science grid. So, but yeah, that's great advice to people to look. One of the things too, Kevin, I noticed with your slide, the higher importance on cloud as far as the amount of money that NSF is putting towards cloud, as opposed to, CC stars. So again, look to the cloud, people. It seems to be the advice.
Yeah, Deep is the leader on that front.
Yeah.
So,
So let me
Right.
talk
So
about.
I was really hoping that we could do the 5 minutes of EPIC slides. I know some people have to leave on the hour. We've got another half an hour for this call. Would that be possible, Jane?
I've got to leave in a few minutes. So.
Yeah, me too, actually. Okay.
All right, so Jane, why don't we reschedule the EPIC time, but the slides are linked in the notes.
Okay.
I can stay after the half an hour, but for everyone who's got questions about planning grants, epic@iu.edu, we've got resources to help you. I'll go through the slides after the hour, but I think for people who have to leave, that's really important to know now. I had thought we were going to do my bit right after Kevin's, but
I'm sorry. Yeah, we kind of got into the questions,
Yeah,
which I think
kinda.
are important too. Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, we can do that, and we can bring you guys back in January too, or have a separate session. I think this is just such good information for this. Yeah, the plan. So there were a couple of questions regarding the number 5 category, and Susan Ivy said, I have some questions about the planning grant, and she would talk offline, but I think it's important we talk about it as a planning grant appropriate for a university that is working to develop an approach to better coordinate current services that are spread throughout the university and plan for CI growth. So if you have distributed and you want to try to figure that out, how to get those more centralized. And you mentioned throughout that this is targeting smaller universities and or those just getting started. I wouldn't classify us that way since we do have existing systems, staffing, and services. We just want our resources to develop ways and plan for better organization, planning, and coordination, trying to determine if this grant is something we should consider or if our needs are out of scope. So that's around that planning grant section.
Yeah, so I'll just give a short answer to that. Well, maybe we can take that one offline. I'm happy to please reach out to me, send me an email. I'm happy to discuss your idea for a planning grant. We're not interested in supporting enterprise types of activities, right? So this is all about the goal of helping to advance science, research, and education, right, on campus. So if you're coming at it from an enterprise point of view, that may not work. But let's just table that for maybe a side discussion on your planning grant proposal idea.
Yeah, and it might be that there's several clusters around campus that they're trying to coordinate into.
That's what I mean. We've got several clusters and computing resources, and it's just so spread out. So we're really in the space where we're trying to think more strategically. We haven't been doing that necessarily. So we have central IT, we have departmental ITs, we have cores, we have everything. And so I just didn't know if this was something that's out of scope for planning for this type of grant. We should be looking elsewhere or not.
I think the expected goal of a planning grant is leading to a CC star proposal down the road. So I haven't had this type of question put to me before. I don't like ruling ideas out. I think maybe we can talk about that. If this helps with your campus CI planning, then I think it's probably in scope, and maybe what you just described fits into that.
Okay, that's great. We can talk offline. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay. Lauren suggested, and maybe we do the January time, we have EPIC and OCG and the PRP and those folks, we could have them come in.
Gene, I feel bad. I'm gonna have to drop off. I have a 1 o'clock.
Yep. Nope. Thank you. We appreciate your time. And Jen, I'm sorry, if we want to run through your slides now, Jen, that would be fine too.
The one thing that I will comment on
Thanks,
is
Kevin.
know your science drivers. I think Kevin emphasized that, but for this program, if your request is not driven and matched to your science, not we want to support physics, but Dr. Physics lab wants this resource to get this scientific result. Here's the infrastructure we need to implement that is key. And my concern is that's hard. In the notes for the thing, I've got a link to our slides. I've got a link to the webpage, which is also in the solicitation. Read the whole solicitation. Kevin referred to that, but actually section 6 and 7, which you wouldn't normally read, there's more stuff in there. There's a lot of requirements in this one. So epic@iu.edu if you've got other questions for us.
Thanks again, Jane. Sorry I have to drop off. And thank you for the opportunity. I'm sorry I can't stick around for Jen's.
Nope.
So.
Thank you and Deep for spending some time with us. And I'm sure we're going to have some questions and hopefully you'll get some good solicitations out of this, or some good proposals, not good solicitations. So
That's what we want. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
So
All
Jane,
right.
tell me, we can do a little bit of EPIC now if you want. We can wait till January. It's up to folks. I'm free for the next half hour, as is, I think, is Jason.
I mean, I think maybe we do a little of both. Some people are obviously going to have to drop off,
Right. So I'll go ahead. Let me share my screen.
if we see that we end up with just me and you and Jason, then we'll just stop.
If I could throw something in here, Jen, you hit on a really, really important topic, which is being able to show what the impact would be on science if some, like on a cluster proposal, if we get this equipment, that's going to have this impact. Measuring that, if you can run some benchmarks to say, okay, here's what it takes to do, 10 runs of this professor's program, and this professor needs to run 10,000 of these. Therefore, it will take blah, 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 blah. But at the end of this, we'll be able to show, that this model works or doesn't work. But having that measurable stuff that translates into why you need X amount of equipment is absolutely critical. Because if there's a leap, you're in trouble.
You've got to start even a little bit farther back for a lot of the sites. I think you're a little bit farther along the track with your MRI proposals. First disclaimer, these are our opinions. If you've got ground truth you're looking for, go talk to NSF. It's really important. 2 slides on EPIC. We're listed in the solicitation where we were actually funded through this program, and we help people with end-to-end performance. And that's everything from infrastructure to actual scientists with data transfer problems to training. End-to-end performance is really hard. We all know this because there's a lot of different pieces and there's soft failures and the end users don't know what to expect. So Patrick was just talking about getting some benchmarks for what do they need. Sometimes they don't even know. We've got 6 main focus areas, which I won't go into now. Go to epic.global if you want more information on those, and we can come back and talk to you about any of them in detail. Jane and I actually gave a talk recently on some of the deep dive work we did with University of Cincinnati, looking at their applications in CI matching. The one section I will talk about, because it's kind of the overarching focus, is this roadside assistance and consulting. We wanted to be able to offer, the equivalent of AAA for my data transfer doesn't work anymore. Who do I call? So you contact epic@iu.edu. We've done over 125 of these to date in 40 different states and something like 10 or 12 different countries for endpoints. And this is kind of like an Ask Me Anything. We can help you with your data architecture review. We can help you with data projection for science fields. We can tell you what kind of performance you could expect in some situations. We can give advice on letters of collaboration or other aspects. That's just part of what we're paid to do. This is our job.
Hey, Jen, can I ask you a question real quick? First of all, thank you for being flexible and staying, and I want you to go through this because everybody needs to be started on their grants now, not wait till January. So, but I was wondering with the roadside assistance, we've had a recent issue come up or thing that we need resolved, that we have all these science instruments that are attached to Windows 7 machines, and they're talking about doing maybe a VLAN or something. We can't, our InfoSec, is that something that...
Can I talk about that at the end?
Yeah. Yep. I just wondered if that was something that you guys do.
We will talk to you about any of the issues you have with the end-to-end performance.
Okay.
Writ large. So specifically for the CC Star proposal, we have a website set up that's referenced in the solicitation, epic.global/cc. We can help you find science drivers, look at your data architecture designs, because most of the areas require you to have a diagram and a clear implementation. You need a measurement and monitoring plan. We can give you some advice on that. The CI plans, which we've talked about a little bit, and what a letter of collaboration actually means. So the science drivers really underpin this program in a way, and Kevin kind of brushed over that, but really you have to have science drivers to motivate your infrastructure requests. It is not enough just to say, if I build a DMZ or if I have a great DTN, then my science will be better. You're very unlikely to get funded. Even with a general topic like high energy physics, you really need to talk to the individual groups. They should be part of your intimate team. They should be part of the group that's working on this proposal. You definitely have to have a letter of collaboration from them, but they should be part of your planning as you go along. Finding your science drivers can be hard, especially for smaller schools where there's a division between the IT group and the researchers. If you've got internal network data, you can look at where your large flows are going to and from, look at those departments and the big professors there. You can look at press releases, or almost every campus has a strategic plan. Even if you don't have a vice president of research or an office like that, your institution is likely to have a strategic plan. You can look at who's getting grant money. I have included links here for NSF and NIH. You can look up by your institution who has gotten money in the last however long you want to look, and those are the folks that might be your big science drivers. The other thing that EPIC does is we run a tool called NetSage, which shares de-identified flow data for all of our partners, both domestic and international. If you go to all.netsage.global, and it looks kind of like, well, actually, it'll pull up a page with top talkers for a lot of different stuff. Don't worry about that. Up here, there's a spinny thing. Look at top flows by organization. You can change your time frame over here. I actually pulled up the top flows for Cornell over the last 9 months, and it can tell me something about who they're sharing data with, and I can then drill down by clicking on these various things. For example, Cornell's sharing a bunch of data with Boulder. This will give me data on subnets. It'll show me patterns and other things, which I won't take the time to go into now. So that's a tool at your disposal. We don't have data for everybody. Internet 2 will not let us instrument their networks, but we've got pretty decent coverage for the US. Because what you don't want to propose is this. Here's your design. Here's what your users are doing. You need to make sure they're matched. It's critical. So this is one of the biggest missteps we see. I mentioned we do data architecture review. We call it a data architecture, not a network review or a compute review, because it's more than the network. One of the biggest challenges here that we have seen in the past is you'll get a recommendation from a vendor, which is advantageous to the vendor, not to you. Make sure it's meeting your requirements. You need to look at the end-to-end path and make sure it matches. So it doesn't make sense to have one piece of that 100G capable and the rest of it only 10G capable, right? You can see how that makes sense when you think about it from a step away. But when you're in the weeds and you think, but I just want this, look at the path. Look at how it's going to be used as opposed to what you want to have it used. We get questions on security intrusion detection systems. Somebody already brought up Trusted CI. They are great. We work very closely with them often. Von Welsh is a wonderful resource. His team has got really good stuff online. They are more than happy to help with this space. For post-award, We also have a tester that does 110, 40, 100 gig tests that we can loan out. And we do loan out to people who, once you've put your infrastructure in place, this is a resource that you can talk about. If you want to do that, though, you've got to talk to us for a letter. When you think about how you design this, how is it going to be used in real life? So there are a lot of questions about DMZs and DTNs and, oh, I need to have 100 gig DTN. And we said, well, maybe, maybe not. We've actually written up a couple documents recently on 100 gig DTNs and 100 gig persona nodes, because it's really important to scope these to your science use case. If your science use case is, the scientist here has an instrument that can only produce the data at 1G, and they want to share the data with another institution where they've only got a 10G connection, having 100 gig DTN for that use case will not make sense. And the reviewers will say, this is not justified, and you will unlikely to be funded. Think about what the other end looks like. Think about what your campus backbone can support. We often find having multiple small DTNs more advantageous than a single 100 gig DTN. We've got that all written up if you look at our materials page. Measurement and monitoring plan, NSF said they've got everything in a nice little table. Not so much, because the measurement and monitoring plan is listed in the text. Persona-based measurement and monitoring plan, unless you write up an exception, it's not listed in the table. Read the solicitation, read it again, make notes, read it again. We can offer you some advice in this space. We work very closely with the Persona Consortium. Both IU and LBL are members of that as well. Campus CI plans are hard. There is no overarching format for these. We've got samples available. We're happy to look at your plan and make comments on it if you give us enough time to. But you've got to show with your campus CI plan how your work fits into it. It's also possible. So we, at IU, my group submitted a CC Star proposal 2 years ago, and a whole different group entirely owned this campus CI plan. So this is something to be aware of, is there may be an existing campus-wide CI plan that you may not even be aware of. Letters of collaboration are really important. We have a whole page set up from doing these in the past. Every year we do 10, 15 or more of these. This is how you talk about your team. This is how your team says what they are giving you. It is not a letter of support. A letter of support says, Jane is really smart, you should give her this award. We know she'll do good stuff. A letter of collaboration is, I'm working with Jane, we're going to have these kinds of meetings, we're going to do this kind of planning, my guys will do X, her guys will do Y, this is how we're collaborating. That's what you have to put in these letters. Our last thoughts here, read the whole solicitation. This one especially has a ton of requirements and details. Writing a proposal will take much longer than you think. If you start this after the holidays, you are unlikely to be able to pull together what you need to pull together. Getting people's attention is hard, especially with the holidays. You need to have your researchers as letters of collaboration, but they really should be part of your core team as you talk about what you're building and how you're implementing it. How are you meeting their needs? That's the goal. Your institution may also have internal deadlines for grant submissions, which you need to be aware of. And again, back to the first thing and all of Jason's cat pictures to show you this is important. Everything I've just said is our experience and our opinions. NSF is the ground truth. So that's what I wanted to share with folks. There are links to that in the notes. I don't know if there are specific questions that we can answer now. We're here. I know there were questions on planning grants. I think that's a great use of the planning grant to develop a CI plan for your campus. That, in my opinion, is what it's meant for. That's a really great way forward. It's better to do that than to apply for an Area 1 and fail, in my personal opinion.
What would the expenses be that you would turn in, or that you would be requesting for a planning grant like that? I've never actually looked at that planning grant, and I'm thinking, especially in virtual world.
Well, so I mean, they're 1 or 2 year. You can ask for staff time, I believe. So I read these all about when it first came out. You can't ask for equipment costs, but you can ask for staff time. Normally this, you would ask for meeting time. Gosh knows when we're going to be meeting again.
Right, right.
Um,
Okay, but you can ask for staff time. So that, I mean, then that's
Yeah,
a really.
so,
good
and that's another thing is this part of the solicitation says equipment costs are not permitted. Other parts say equipment costs of this type are limited. Other parts say this type of staff cost is limited.
Mhm.
So you really need to go through this with a fine tooth comb. Don't trust the tables, sorry. And even the back parts. So there are additional review criterias for the solicitation beyond the standard ones that you need to address. And I have a very close friend who teaches people how to write grants, who I've met through completely other circumstances. And she has a rule of 3. Imagine for reviewers of grants, imagine your reviewer has been up till 3 a.m. Their 3 kids have all had 3 pounds of sugar. She's on her 3rd scotch. What do you want her to be reading here? And how do you want her to be able to look at your proposal and say yes or no? So
That's really good. Tables work well for the science drivers, for us anyway. They have,
the table is required in the solicitation this year.
oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's worked for us.
For the review criteria, consider having a section where you have bulleted headers for each review criteria. So it's really easy for a reviewer to find when the reviewer is asked, has this proposal met review criteria A? Here's the sentence that matches that. Have they met review criteria B? Here's the sentence for that.
And Jen, I heard the same thing on a session on how to write a proposal about, do you think they're sitting there on their 3rd scotch when they pick up your paper? This is where they said it's extremely important that your overview, that first page, is eye-catching, grabbing, wow, this is exciting stuff. They're going to get this and do this. You can't negate how important that is.
Yeah. And that's not the 1-page summary. That's the first page of your 15-page project description.
Yep.
In fact, my friend who teaches people how to write grants and gets paid good money to do this, she spends an entire training day just on how do you write the first page, period. Someone was asking what to send for a 1 to 2 page description to Kevin. That would be a piece of it. The other piece to think about is all NSF proposals have to have a review criteria for merit and broader impacts. How are you going to address those? And the main point of the program would be the other piece you could think about for what to send in for a 1 to 2 page proposal. So, Jane, I cut you off earlier because you had a complicated questions about VLANs and other things. EPIC will work with any group. You don't have to be NSF funded yet, DOE funded, anyone funded. You don't have to be domestic. All you have to be is somehow associated with research and education, fuzzy, and something along data movement, pretty much. And we're happy to talk to you and to try to help you with whatever you're thinking about here. So epic@iu.edu is the contact point for that. There's lots of pointers in those slides that I zoomed through, apologies. Are there any other questions for the few of us who are left here?
It's 43 of us still. It's pretty good.
Half?
Yeah.
Get half the people.
Well, you'll probably get lots of emails, Jen and Jason, and hopefully everybody will reach out to you to. Of course, I don't want to encourage too many people to apply for this because I want to apply for it.
Well,
That's a little
everyone
problem.
should try.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jennifer, where can we get your slides?
they are. I put a link into the talk notes. They'll also, if you go to epic.global/cc, there'll be a link there. Sometime this afternoon, there'll be a link to these.
Okay.
And we'll send out a follow-up email with Kevin's slides and the link to the recording, the YouTube recording.
And you can include these in that too.
Okay, yes, and I'll include that in there too. This is great. Perfect. Good luck, everybody. And we'll have you guys back, Lauren and Jennifer, in January, if you don't mind, if you can. So,
Sounds good.
I'm sure that once people think about this, they'll have more questions too. And you know,
Just the slide link is broken, so I will make sure that's fixed.
good. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Happy holidays, and hope nobody's getting snowed in today. So we'll see you all next year.
Happy holidays.
Thank
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you all.